maybe I can hop right in. Timo, if I can start with you. We were already just now talking about hard-to-abate sectors, right? We talked about steel, about cement. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more, give us some insight from the Climate Club's perspective, what some of the challenges are that we're bumping into when it comes to decarbonization, specifically within these hard-to-abate sectors?
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, really great pleasure to be here, both for me and for Anna, I'm sure. It's been quite an interesting experience to work on setting up a new institution, the Climate Club. When it comes to the type of products that we're talking about, this is about steel, it's about cement production, it's about aluminium and all these kind of other things, at least in the long run. It is responsible, the production of these kind of materials is responsible for roughly 9 gigatons of CO2 emissions, wow. 1/4 of global emissions today. And the key challenge is that we don't have the technologies. In my view, this is the key challenge. I mean, everyone may disagree with me here, but the key challenge is that we don't have the technologies in the market as yet. Think about hydrogen-based steel making, think about CCS for cement production. We don't have them in the market yet, and this has a host of different implications.
Yes, because what do we do when we don't have them?
Well, first of all, you need to innovate.
Yeah.
This is a key challenge, and getting into a technology into the market is not obvious. Think about solar PV. It took 30 years from the first experiments in the Belts Lab in the United States to market introduction, and then another 30 years until it had 1% of global electricity generation. This is not the time that we have. For steel production facilities, we are somewhere in the 1970s, if you wish, when it comes to market introduction. Wow. And that's not the time we have when we want to reach net zero.
That's actually, I say wow, and I nod, but that's actually quite a stark conclusion that you're drawing there.
It's not the conclusion, it's the starting point.
Yeah.
So I hope we can solve these kind of
things. Thank you, Timo. This is a mentality shift. I like it. Thank you for doing it. It's the starting point. How do we move forward from the starting point, Rada? What would you say is the most important thing that we can do to sort of accelerate our way from this indeed the bleak starting point to decarbonize industries?
Wow, that
very
is
easy question. No pressure.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me here as well. UNIDO is delighted to be working with the Climate Club and with Germany and Chile on some of the work, particularly around partnerships and establishing the matchmaking platform, which was just referred to. Now, there's a lot of work that's happening in different initiatives, and one has to recognize that. So I am here, I'm representing the SEM Industrial Deep Decarbonization Initiative, and there, some of the key issues that we're discussing are around how do we secure offtake markets for these products to help those that want to implement the technologies, and that's primarily by soliciting for green public procurement commitments.
Right.
And
can you elaborate on what those are?
So the green public procurement commitments are actually commitments from governments to buy low-carbon steel, cement, and concrete for public construction projects. But that's what brings us actually to the discussion we're having today in terms of how do you define what low-carbon is?
Exactly.
How do you measure that actually all of what you're buying is following the same rules and principles? Because at the end of the day, they need to compare. And how do you actually report also against that? And so the latter two, I would say this is what exactly we are working on within IDDI.
Right.
But what we get from working with a platform like the Climate Club is widening that discussion to a wider group of countries. Because in IDDI, we work with 10 countries. As you said, the Climate Club is 38 countries, some of the most ambitious as well.
Right.
So in terms of setting that standard for the definition at a high rate that encourages also others to be following the lead, I think that is a very important element.
And the first example you gave with regards to procurement, that's a very clear one on creating incentives. Then the second point you raised, it taps into what Francisco was saying, right? A big issue is, do we have harmonized standards that we can sort of compare? Timo, I see you nodding. Could I look to you to maybe, is there something that the Climate Club is like looking towards doing when it comes to getting more harmonized standards in that sense?
Yeah, totally. I think first and foremost, you need to, if you're an industry, you need to understand what are the rules of the game. Especially in a market that is so internationally. The steel is produced in many countries around the world, but it is traded internationally. So if you want to participate in that market of what we refer to as near zero emission steel production, to be a bit more precise, I guess, in order to understand, in order to be able to participate, you need to understand what are the rules of the game.
Right.
That means understanding what are emission thresholds that are compatible with climate goals and what are the emission thresholds that governments are requesting
and what's the
moving
gap?
forward. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the Climate Club has a key role to play here, in my view. It's not a technical platform. It's a platform, there are many technical platforms that Rana talked about. SEM-IDDI, we have one at the International Energy Agency, a working party on industrial decarbonization. There are ISO and many, many others. But the opportunity for the Climate Club here is to elevate that discussion.
Yeah.
This is not something that is done by energy ministers alone, by industry ministers alone, by trade ministers alone. This is a cross-cutting theme, industrial decarbonization.
And maybe, because that's a good point, if we would make that concrete, I mean, we already said it's almost 40 countries, but they do require different sort of assistance and need in that sense. So maybe if I can look to you, Rana, what is a way in which you're sort of like providing or seeking to provide assistance to countries?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're looking to launching at COP29, in fact, is the Global Matchmaking Platform, which is going to be linked to the Climate Club. Yeah. What it is it's essentially an instrument that's looking into getting in and channeling in requests from countries that are interested to work on ambitious and adopting ambitious goals and targets and standards for green commodities, and actually working with them to match them to the service provider that could actually provide that service. I mean, I'm calling it a service provider, but that could be a think tank, an institution like the IEA or UNIDO or others as well. Yeah. And essentially also matching that to a financial or financing incentive as well. So that match is sort of a triangle that brings together, the need of countries to do that, the technical expertise of agencies and institutions that could deliver that support, and bringing in the financing that could flow in from different financial partners or also donors as well.
Yeah, I love that, honestly. Hey, I loved what Francisco did. He said he gave us some pinpoints already as to what we're going to do at COP29. We're going to see a first report. But I also actually want to ask the both of you if you could just briefly, because we're almost approaching the end again. It goes very fast. But what is something that you would like to see when it comes to COP29 or even COP30 as sort of like an assessment point that we can take when it comes to industrial decarbonization? Rana, would you like to go first?
Sure. I mean, at the moment, a lot of the discussion in the climate agenda is primarily on the NDCs and the updated NDCs.
Right.
And one of the biggest gaps that we see is actually that industry-specific mitigation actions in NDCs are not as well covered, especially by some of the countries that have the largest emissions in industries.
Right. What do you mean when you say not as well covered?
So there isn't so much specificity in the NDCs on actions that countries are taking to mitigate climate change from industrial-related emissions.
Okay.
And so this is an area certainly of improvement where we look forward to actually work with selected countries that could make a difference, obviously, on this topic and really bringing stronger actions and not only commitments to the COP29 and COP30.
I love that, and that is also a super tangible one. So everybody here, if you know somebody that can get more specificity in those NDCs, make sure to tell them. Timur, for you.
Well, I have many wishes for COP29 and COP30,
Love to hear it,
and I have many wishes, generally speaking, but I think if I have to nail it down to something, I think a joint understanding on standards and definitions in the industry sector, and linked to that procurement efforts, real pledges to buy these type of materials. I think this is there is something beyond commitments that are taken, political, etc. I think it's time for real world investment. Yeah,
if I hear one thing that is a red thread through everything that you're saying, then it's action, it's harmonization, it's the standards, it's making sure that we're more very concrete and very, very specific about where we need to go, because otherwise, how do we get there in the first place? Thank you so much. I really want to thank you. Thank you, Timur. Thank you, Rana.